Part 1. The significance of the exile. Destruction of the temple. When the temple, the house in which God lives in perceptibility on earth, is on fire, when the world under the sway of the kingdom of Israel collapses and is succeeded by the world under the rule of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, the priests mount on the roof of that wondrous sanctuary on earth. They have the keys of the house in their hands and cry, Lord of the world, since we can no longer fulfill our task in this house, take thou the keys unto thy hands again. Upon which they cast the keys up on high, to heaven. Forthwith a hand appears from heaven, and it catches the keys. Since when the keys have been in heaven? The priests disappear into the fire, those that had led people into the temple and instructed them, those who, because of their restlessness, had been destined to preserve the house of God on earth. The watchmen who kept watch at night to see how far it was into the night are in that place no longer. It is this Isaiah refers to when he says, This is the burden of the valley of vision that aileth thee now that thou art wholly gone up to the housetops. A world comes crashing down, a new world is born, a new world in which the former is a mere memory, pre-mondial memory. It lives in the new world as an unconscious feeling not to be logically motivated. It lives as cognition lost in darkness profound. The temple is destroyed. Perceptible to our eyesight, there were shambles, ruins, afterwards buried under more recent strata of earth and covered with new structures. The temple has disappeared. From the point of view of the earth, it pertains to another world, a previous world. The transit from the world with the visible temple to that with the lost temple is accomplished by a world catastrophe. A continuity is broken. A new one arises. The plane of fracture is the pangs of the new birth. The birth of exile. An ancient tale sprung from profound cognizance relates about the prenatal state of man. The moment of the conception on earth coincides with the corresponding event evoked in heaven. For at that very moment, a neshama, soul abiding with God, is designated to animate the babe to be born on earth, whose body is now in its initial stage of formation. The neshama is aware of the fact that its progress towards this earth implies its leaving the house of the Father, that this implies unimaginable desolation, a wretched exile. She implores to be allowed to remain in heaven, in the presence of God. But since she is the neshama, since she is what bestows on man the pattern which makes him into the image of God, makes him appear in the likeness of God, she cannot but go the way God has similarly gone with creation, the way to earth, the way of formation, of self-sacrifice, in order to bestow, to the extreme limit or rather beyond it, divine sparks upon the forms. God, too, accompanies creation into the world. God lives, shines, radiates in the world. God abiding in the world is what is called Shekinah. Thanks to God's accompaniment of the world, there is for this world, too, the return to its source of origin, to God, and that is redemption, the end of the exile, the end of incarceration in form. God accompanying the world that there may be redemption. This is the pattern of in any event. Thus, God also accompanies the world into the exile of Egypt to be with those that are in captivity there and to take them back again. The great burden of redemption far outweighs all suffering and exile. Indeed, it is even so. Exile exists for the very purpose of accomplishing the ineffable bliss of redemption, of recognition of the return. This return from one extreme to the other lends purpose to everything in creation. It gives the great and profound significance to all suffering and exile. It was for the sake of redemption that the world was created, and for the sake of redemption does God accompany this world. The neshama follows the same path, thus sealing man with the seal of God. It is a path the full import of which is suspected and therefore rightly feared. Accompaniment into exile. In Hebrew, the words for assuming form and for exile are derived from the same root, is no play acting. It is not discharging a role, after which one can proceed to the order of the day. Accompanying into exile means purposive self-sacrifice, awareness of the fact that one shall perish, that one has severed relationship, that one shall fail to endure the suffering or understand it. It is the horrible dread of forlornness, lack of understanding, disappointment. The Shekinah in exile, Galuth Shekinah, is the totality of all suffering throughout the time of all beings in all worlds. It is the one extreme which has the other extreme, redemption, for its antipole. In this world, however, the world in which everything presents itself in the form of duality, in which there is either life or death, in which there is either good or bad, there is also merely exile or redemption. And while there is creation, there is exile, until the very last neshama shall have brought the divine down into this world unto its extreme consistency. Only then will the accompaniment be fulfilled unto its extreme. This very last neshama is therefore called that of the Redeemer, of the Mashiach, Messiah. As soon as the last neshama has come into this world, the kingdom of Edom, the last, will cease to exist, and then there will be the kingdom of the Son of David. Every neshama who has come down to earth on this way of the fulfillment of God's accompanying his creation, thus seals man with the divine seal, bestows on him the likeness of God, and readily recognizes the suffering awaiting her in this world. Pre-natal learning. Then there comes an angel, representing the thought of God, and this angel accompanies the neshama on her way down into form, to birth, into this world. It is a pre-mondial way. On this way, the whole of creation, from one end of the world to the other, is shown in the word, both in space and time. The neshama then surveys the meaning and purpose of creation in its completeness, with this experiences supreme ecstatic bliss. The radiance of love inconceivable and readiness utterly and completely to sacrifice herself overwhelm the neshama when she understands the words which the angel shows her. The angel then learns the Torah together with the neshama, as the saying is. Those words which at creation call forth on earth all that takes place in the universe are still premondial, prenatal. They have not as yet passed into the exile of the image, the form. Annunciation of the exile. While the neshama has seen all, from one end of creation to the other, when she experiences the pinnacle of bliss, a pinnacle which can only be at the recognition of the words of God, the angel announces the approach of the moment of birth. In the words which the angel had shown the neshama, it is the passage in which it is narrated the disintegration of Solomon's kingdom, the part in which there is the approach of the destruction of a world, in which is foretold the vanishing of God's perceptibility on earth, the disappearance of the temple. Fear, horror of that which is to come, descends on the neshama. The entrance into the world, into form, is heralded. The angel then intimates that he is going to leave the neshama to herself. The perceptibility of the execution of God's thoughts will vanish away. The neshama implores him to stay with her. She cannot imagine what she is to do when thus forsaken. A mollycoddled child, when suddenly left by its parents in an incomprehensible, hard and cruel world, is likely to feel like that. But the angel says that at the end of the way, through the world of the exile, which commences with birth on earth, he will be there again to lead the neshama home. Home with everything present. Home where bliss, ineffable, and perfect harmony prevail. Such is the passage in God's words in which he creates his creation each day. The words in which the prophets, the heralds of God's word, relate about the future, about a life after this world, about a great return and a great redemption. It is of immense solace to the neshama. She now knows the meaning and the purpose of going into exile. The purpose is redemption, vouchsafing the highest possible bliss, or rather bliss impossible to express in words or images. The neshama's fear resembled that of Abram, when at the moment of the covenant darkness fell on the pieces. That fear, too, vanished in a wave of great recognition. There was Genesis 15, it looks like a 1F, which may be 11. And that's the end of this reading for today.